Hello, and welcome back to the CDO Magazine Data Leader Interview Series. I'm Lance Walter, Chief Marketing Officer at Prophecy, and today I have the pleasure of again getting to speak with Brian Kursar, Group Vice President and Head of Enterprise AI at Toyota Motor North America. Thanks again, Brian, for sharing your experiences and creating a team dedicated to incorporating AI into Toyota's systems and processes. Wanted to pick up this episode and talk a little bit about how you make the light bulb go on for some of the teams at Toyota. Like for other organizations who are saying, look, we know AI holds a lot of potential, but we really don't know where to get started. What would you tell them about how to begin this journey?
I think one of the things that really kind of resonated with our top executives is that last year, our CEO came to me and said, Brian, I'm hearing a lot of great things about AI, but it would be helpful to understand how do you use it in the context of Toyota business. And so what we did is we kind of took a step back and we decided to create internally what we called an AI Immersion Day. And so AI Immersion Day ultimately was this opportunity where we got all the executives in the room. And then we had these different booths where every project that we were working on with AI could ultimately be drilled down, almost like we have this concept called the Gemba, right, in Toyota, and Gemba in Japanese means go to the source, right, and so it's all about being able to touch, feel, ask questions of what we're doing, and so we had every department, whether it was dealer solutions, customer relations solutions, manufacturing, our customer Toyota.coms, our quality, our technicians, and we had these booths where we kind of gave an overview of this is what AI is all about. This is what the difference is between the traditional AI and generative AI. This is the evolution, and then ultimately painted that picture. And here's how Toyota is using it. And then we had the executives be able to kind of go to every booth and talk to the folks that were producing AI solutions. And I think the light bulb went off when people was like, oh, wait, you can do this, and so just very simple things like being able to provide whether it's a manufacturing technician or it's a vehicle technician, right, that reduced mean time to repair, right, taking on existing technical documentation, that is, very cumbersome and very hard to understand, and takes hours to kind of research, and being able to just use natural language to say, help me, understand how I would replace this part on this Toyota vehicle for this model and this model year, and to get that information, within seconds, right? Or being able to see that, look, if we now have all of the transcripts from every time that the call center has a call, and we're able to summarize that, that's some of the stuff that ultimately our team members or at the call center had to do manually. And so you start like putting these real life use cases on how Toyota productivity would be increased if we were to implement AI here, AI here, AI here. And then all of a sudden you just see these light bulbs come up. And after that event, I mean, my email box was just overflowing with people wanting to do projects, people wanting to do workshops. But I think you really have to paint the picture to say, here's the technology, here's the capabilities, here's our business, right? And here's what ultimately we do. And here are the opportunities. Here's low-hanging fruit. Here's the things that may, take a little bit longer to do. But you kind of have to put it in context for business productivity, what it can help you do faster. What are the things that we're doing manually that ultimately, can be automated through this hyper automation, but more so than just hyper automation, intelligent automation. How we had 6 people doing this today. Now we only need 2, and the other 4 can be doing higher value work. And I think when you start painting that picture and start removing the mundane, the repetitive tasks that people do every day, and replacing them with the higher value add, more creative thought leadership things that they can be filling with their day, they all get inspired, they get excited, and I think it just kind of brings everything together. But it has to be within the context of the business that you're ultimately supporting.
Yeah. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. But I'm picturing like you could picture science fair or trade show, but sort of the
It's
internal booth.
exactly.
People going, here's what we did in my department, or here's what my project team achieved. And yeah, contextualizing it to Toyota for senior leaders so that they go, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, it was so successful last year. We're bringing it back again this year. And this time, it's not just going to be the senior executives. We're opening it up to the entire company. Yeah, and so it does require a lot of orchestration. We work with a lot of great partners that have helped out, but ultimately, it's one of these things where we truly believe in that Gemba, right? The going, to the source, getting down, getting your hand dirty, right? Asking it questions. We actually had prototypes out there where the senior executives from manufacturing could ask the bot questions. We had folks from procurement asking this thing called DocuBot questions. About when you start looking at contracts, bringing them together, and being able to summarize across 50 contracts. Where's my labor spend for this specific task, for this specific resource across all of my suppliers? And their minds are blown because a lot of this stuff, especially on the unstructured side, never had a solution to bring it all together outside of having someone scan through a document. And these are like 80-page documents, right? Copying and pasting, putting it in an Excel sheet. It's just not efficient. And the greatest thing about it is that people are now rethinking their strategies on how we now start resourcing some of these projects and how much AI can truly take on for the company.
Brian, that is a great sort of foundation for talking a little bit about kind of assessing AI value and using that value to prioritize use cases. Like, for example, you mentioned AI in the context of a call center. And that's a place where if you can avoid a few calls, if you can take some time off, shave a few seconds off a call to get a customer to resolution, the ROI adds up pretty quick. What about less obvious areas? How do you help people understand? How do you teach people to assess AI value in different areas where the ROI might not be quite so obvious?
Well, I think it all starts with really understanding the problem you're trying to solve, understanding how the status quo is. What are people doing today? And then really, I think pairing up business team members that have that really deep understanding for the business and the business processes with AI engineers from my team and creating these workshops. And within a few hours, right, we kind of, we'll go, we'll plot them out and say, okay, so this is high complexity, high effort, right, high reward. But then we find some of the low hanging fruit, and it's just, I think to me, you just get these light bulbs once people can really frame of what's possible, and then combining it to really kind of understanding a deep kind of domain expertise within this, let's say, procurement, right, or within the call center, or within, let's say, a quality group. There are just so many opportunities, and to me, I think it really kind of rides on the willingness and openness of team members to want to explore this new technology. And to be honest, everyone is just so curious. We recently put out an internal version of ChatGPT. We call it Toyota GPT. It's just an internal version where you can ultimately put highly confidential data, and it's all secured. We worked really, amazingly with our cybersecurity, and people are constantly just making that available, right? An enterprise grade Toyota branded, ChatGPT out there. People are constantly coming to us saying, "I can't believe what's possible." Is the response I get over and over, just in my email box of messages, people thanking me. And it's like, well, gosh, this is great. We're happy to hear this, and we want to continue to see this type of organic growth happen at the company.
That's great, Brian. You've clearly developed a really good, repeatable framework that you're about to repeat that helps the AI light bulb go on for people. That's really cool. I wanted to ask a little bit, this stuff is, even when you see the potential and you have a lot of talent and resource on the team like you have at Toyota, things aren't necessarily easy. What are generally sort of some of the challenges associated with delivering a successful AI project that you most wish your peers understood? Like what gets in the way that people don't anticipate?
I think that the first thing is just a lack of understanding. I think you have different levels of kind of perceptions of the AI, especially folks that have never used it before. You have some folks that have just the highest expectations that the AI is going to replace the entire team, and it's going to be cheap, and it's going to be fast, and it's just going to be the all knowing, all seeing, I think entity that is just going to revolutionize everything. But they don't recognize that there is a lot of things under the covers, like data engineering, like ML and AI engineering. Really, I think building out those pipelines, chunking out, right, the data, making sure that we have a way to update efficiently as new information is coming in. So I think you have folks with just the highest expectations projects. You just got to, I think, reset those expectations, do that education, and make sure that they understand, that while there's so many opportunities and so many things we can do, right, but really kind of educating on what we can do now, what are the low-hanging fruit, right, what is going to require a lot more architecting or architecting and engineering to get to the end state. The other, you see kind of like the other side completely, where people are really hesitant. They're worried that AI is going to replace their teams or their roles. And so I think that's where I think we have saying at Toyota, we're, a core principle of just respect for people. And we want people to understand that the AI is to be their partner to help augment, right, the intelligence, to help them get things done more efficiently and not to really ultimately replace them. And so I think that once folks get over that and understand like kind of the point of view we have on how we are approaching AI in a very respectful way and making sure that you always have that human governing, right, what the AI is doing, making the final decisions, taking the decisions, and leaving it to AI as far as they are comfortable with. And I think that that's been kind of some of the core pillars is just that continued kind of respect for people that is really kind of one of our core principles, and then extending that to really kind of showcase what's possible with AI, but in the context of respect for people and supporting the Toyota employee. And I think that once they get that, then you have then they start joining the people in the middle who are just ultimately very curious, very excited, and wanting to, I think, embrace the new technologies, just like every new technology that we've rolled out. And this just becomes just another tool for the arsenal to really kind of help meet our business objectives.
Great. Brian, so you have shared so much wisdom through our three segments, and one of the consistent themes is that you've been super application oriented. Like there's all kinds of interesting concepts around AI, but you've been very practical about what's happening at Toyota, what other people can replicate to try and achieve similar success. I guess I wanted to take it then down to sort of an individual level as we wrap up here. Like, what's a good next step for the individuals, maybe your peers who are listening to this? How do they help their organization achieve positive change with AI, recognizing that that audience is really close to corporate data? I don't know what resources you've leaned on, but what's a good next step for somebody to go, hey, where do I go from here to try and get success?
I think if you're just starting, 100%, you got to align with your cybersecurity group. Myself and our CISO, we're joined at the hip. We, there's a mutual respect for each other in our organizations, and ultimately, I know that I will never be successful unless I have cybersecurity, privacy, right, compliance, and legal at my side. And so, I think that bringing everyone together, educating everyone on what's possible, what are the limitations, but also being very transparent. We started off very early on, where hallucinations were just almost every day, and it made it almost not worth jumping into AI. And I think that as the technologies have matured and we found ways to ultimately add those additional guardrails, I think that level of detail and education and constant, I think, reassurance to our legal teams, to our compliance teams, to our privacy groups, to our cybersecurity, right, is, I think, was so important in making my team successful and being able to, I think, really help educate the masses for what's realistic, what's real, what's fake, what's also, but let's be very honest, right, where some of the gaps are, where some of the shortcomings are, right? Because at the end of the day, we all want to move the company as fast as we can, but also being as responsible as we can, knowing that this is, I think, honestly, one of the biggest, greatest inventions since the internet. I haven't been this excited about technology, I think, probably since, I think it was internet, then it was big data, and now it's AI. So it's, to me, it's like we've started like seeing something that can truly change everything. And I haven't felt this way, since 2010, and before that, it was like in the late 90s.
Cool, Brian. Yeah. So a great first step to get close to your CISO and something that you mentioned, legal, et cetera. Yeah, I hear that. Speaking more of other organizations I've seen, not yours, but you get people who might get excited, get far down the road, and then realize late in the journey, we didn't check in for security or architecture fit or legal compliance or any of those things. And then you lose momentum, you potentially lose trust. So that seems like a great first step. All right. Well, Brian Kursar, Group Vice President and Head of Enterprise AI at Toyota Motor North America, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom across three segments with us on the CDO Data Leader Series. Thanks again, Brian.
Thank you, Lance.